Good morning, afternoon or evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back on this wonderful Wednesday for what is going to be nothing short of another jam-packed daily market update. And I think people are feeling a little bit better today than they were yesterday. But I would say generally when it comes to retail, a one-word description of how I'm seeing a lot of retail react, and I'm retail, I'm not institutional, to the cryptocurrency markets is with desperation, which I think is largely unwarranted. What we have done over the past couple of weeks is just look at the kind of road to victory as it relates to being a cryptocurrency investor. And it's littered with treacherous pullbacks like the ones we're currently going through. But that's why we focus on the bigger chart, the bigger picture. And ultimately, that's going to lead you to victory, not focusing on the short-term price action, which really I think has got everyone a little bit disheartened. But if you look at where we were in November or December 2024 to where we are now, we're still largely elevated. And this is just I believe, a normal correction as it relates to the cryptocurrency space. This is not the S&P 500. This is not the stock market. This is the crypto space. And these kind of price action movements are inherent. And the desperation really is unwarranted from the fact that if you understand this industry, and what we try and do every day is help people to do that, oh boy, it's an amazing sort of future that we've got ahead of us. And I think those people that are involved with it today, they'll be called lucky in the future that we're moving towards. So we've got a jam-packed daily market update for you. We're going to start things off with a little bit of macro stuff. So Trump, who's a very polarizing character, you either love or hate him, he's like Marmite is what we'd say here in the UK, essentially is proposing kind of a trade plan for reciprocal tariffs. Now, some nations are going to be affected more than others. I think there's a little bit of uncertainty around all these tariffs. The cryptocurrency market a few weeks ago bore the brunt of that, having them announced on Mexico and Canada, and they've both since kind of been retracted, and both Mexico and Canada kind of capitulated to Trump, and I think he's using it as a weapon largely. But we know that there's kind of a ramification for risk broadly as it relates to tariffs. However, despite all of that, the S&P's gone on and put in a new high. We're seeing sort of record inflows continuing to flow in, despite the gruesome headlines. I mean, I think that's because people like myself and the people that are in charge of all this money essentially see the bigger picture. And I'll do a video, I'll just do it walking and talking or in my car. Everybody loves car videos, where we'll actually talk about the big picture and macro, what's going to happen in this 2017 scenario taking place again, which of course was the last time Trump was inaugurated. So we'll be looking at that. Then the Senate confirms Howard Lutnick as Commerce Secretary, a key role for Trump's trade agenda. We've never had such a crypto-friendly cabinet. And of course, Howard himself on, I think it was Anthony Pompliano's podcast, said he has hundreds of millions of dollars worth of Bitcoin and expects it to get to billions. So they've got a plan for all of this. Let's pause. Isn't it interesting how we've got 60 plus ETFs, so institutions looking to enter the space, and the market pulls back. So it's very interesting because when you get this kind of initial breakout out of a phase 1 into phase 2 or an accumulative range into an uptrending range, that usually happens on big volume, often led by bigger players, that initiates a broader uptrend. Then you'll get a pullback and then you'll get that continuation. So you get a pullback to prior resistance, flip into support of phase 1, confirming phase 2, and then you'll get that continuation. This is just manipulation, guys, by these institutional players that are ultimately lowering the prices, shaking you guys out before they send it where we believe it's going, and certainly is technically a macro signal. Then we'll look at Trump posting a Ripple article. Very interesting. But it is really in reference to the crypto space more broadly. Saylor looking to raise another $2 billion. And then we'll sort of normalize the pullbacks and look at some technical stuff, which of course is how we get our kind of guiding light onto everything. Let's kick things off with some sort of boring macro stuff. Fact sheet. President Donald J. Trump's announced fair and reciprocal plan on trade. The fair and reciprocal plan on trade today, President Donald Trump signed a presidential memorandum ordering the development of comprehensive plans to restore fairness in U.S. trade relationships and countering non-reciprocal trading arrangements. So, in short, I've spent all morning, instead of listening to it's either hardcore gangster rap or hardcore sort of heavy metal when I'm in the gym. I was actually listening to podcasts about all of this. And it's very interesting because what he's essentially saying is we're just going to reciprocate taxes that are levied on us if we want to do business with certain countries. Now, for some countries, that's not going to affect them massively. Somewhere like India, it will, that have got very high sort of tariffs on US goods, etc. And certainly someone like the UK and Europe, they're really in the firing line. And if a deal isn't made with these countries, that could be somewhat detrimental. But we shall see. And this is causing a little bit of macro uncertainty, just like when he announced the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, which we said we think there'll be a resolve to because of the dollar and the ramifications of all that. Despite all of this, the S&P 500 is at an all-time high. We still have higher technical targets for this. We gave you our most sort of short-term one or mid-term one of $6,243. This has been a chart we've just got so right, and we've got a bigger target within phase 2. And really, your altcoin sector is just here. Look at this. Basing, breakout, retest. Let's put the 30 weekly moving average on, and then you get that continuation. That continuation is to come from the markets broadly and in the S&P. So, interestingly, from Eric Balanchunas here, ETFs took in 130 billion in 6 weeks of the year. Best start to the year on record, while the S&P 500 just hit another all-time high yesterday as investors straight up ignore the onslaught of historical headlines. It's like deja vu all over again. So I personally believe the S&P is going to continue to run. Everything is good. We're in a great risk environment, and crypto is going to be the best performer of that. And we get that from our sort of macro assessment of what we think is going to happen. And then when we look at the crypto charts, it really truly does walk of, talk of, and quack of like a duck. And this is what I mean. The desperation out there when it comes to retail investors is unwarranted. There's such an opportunity. Opportunities often don't feel like it at the time. One of my patrons said this yesterday. Shout out to you. You know who you are. Markets don't top in depression. They top in euphoria. And just think about that related to the cryptocurrency space. And we'll look at the crypto space more broadly. Let's talk about, so to wrap that sort of segment up, there's a lot going on, but ultimately, technically, is our guiding light, and we think that there's a great time ahead for risk, despite all the headlines. A headline that we're going to capture today is Senate confirms Howard Lutnick as Commerce Secretary, a key role for Trump's trade agenda. Now, we're going to relate this to the crypto space, as we always do with these daily market updates, because Howard is a big fan of the crypto industry, just like the rest of this administration. They have a plan for all of this, guys. I'm telling you, and they're just not revealing it all. And they're trying, and that's deliberate. You know, just like these people that are talking about how revolutionary the cryptocurrency space is at a high level, but yet they don't mention any of the projects that are going to be the revolutionizers. We are investors in those revolutionizers because we know what they are and what they're not saying, because we see the partnerships, we see the footprints everywhere in regards to the kind of movement towards this industry. So let's look at what Howard has previously said on the Anthony Pompliano podcast, and then we'll proceed with the video.
Have hundreds of millions of dollars.
Okay.
Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars exposure to Bitcoin. And it will be billions.
Just a shorter clip, but I wanted to throw that in there. These guys literally own a hell of a lot of crypto, all of them. It's no coincidence. And do you really think with the positions that they've got, it's human nature, they're not going to ultimately, or do you think they own all this crypto because they know or don't know something? You know, think about that. You guys get what I'm trying to say there. Let's move on swiftly. Trump's Ripple post stirs XRP market speculation. I'm really liking this feature on Twitter, by the way. Twitter's both the best and the worst place for information. More so the best. On February the 18th, 2025, former President Donald Trump, President Donald Trump shared 2 articles on Truth Social related to Ripple Labs and cryptocurrency. XRP highlighting Ripple's increased focus on US business deals. These posts have stirred speculation and interest within the cryptocurrency communities, notably amongst the XRP holders, about the potential impact of Trump's social media activity on XRP's performance and regulatory environment. The US, mark my words on this, is going to use and leverage XRP's technology to ultimately further their monetary and technological dominance around the world. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. I'm probably about 98% sure of that. And they're going to do that through their real USD stablecoin. and the connections that they have. And then you're going to see something like Stellar really sort of more democratize the dollar through things like USDC, et cetera, and ultimately gobble up and solve some of the debt issue. So this is what Trump posted on Truth Social. He's posted a CoinDesk article. One day, hopefully, he's posting Allincrypto articles. Do go and check our website out, guys. Donald Trump effect bumps Ripple Labs US deal XRP gains. And he's posting this. Now, this is interesting because he's obviously met with Brad, et cetera. We're seeing a lot of people actually look to, or lots of things happening in regards to the Ripple ETF. So the SEC has acknowledged Bitwise XRP spot ETF, et cetera. A judge came out a few days ago and acknowledged that it wasn't a security. Again, you're going to see some real movement on all of that. And actually, despite Bitcoin and Ethereum seeing outflows, XRP still maintained some pretty good inflows. Michael Saylor looking to raise $2 billion more. And he's announced how he's proposing to do this with a private offering of convertible senior notes. Very interesting. Let's talk about sort of the pullback that we're currently going through. It's brutal. None of you are appreciating it or liking it. I totally understand that. But the desperation is totally unwarranted. And I think really comes from a lack of understanding the asset class that you're dealing with. When I hear people say crypto is dead because of the kind of pullbacks that it's seen, you'll be wrong on that. And I'm sure of that. We've looked at the kind of road to Ethereum's nearly 60x. I partook for most of that in the last bull market. And it was filled with brutal, horrible, and treacherous pullbacks. And every time people said crypto was dead, this is it, this is the top, this is the end. But what they didn't understand was the broader trajectory. Markets move in this ebb and flow kind of fashion. We teach it in the form of phase analysis. I'll be doing a meeting with my Patreons tonight where I'll be looking at the altcoin sector specifically, probably over 50, 60 altcoins, and relating them to where we are today. Or looking at where we are today, I should say, and looking at how markets move and what's to come. Ethereum looks great today also, just to show you, well, or I'll show you that in a second, but the road to victory was ultimately paved with brutal pullbacks that you're never going to be able to time each one of. We're just rinsing and repeating. This is just support. You'll bounce off this. Cardano again. This is kind of esque to Hedera Hashgraph in my opinion. You know, this is what the road looks like. And look at where we are. Guys, it's a great time to be in the crypto space. Don't let anybody tell you different. Certainly when we look at Bitcoin, when we look at the totals, when we look at everything. This is how we can come out daily. Believe me, sometimes it's not great being a content creator on the cryptocurrency space. Certainly when the price isn't doing what you want it to. But given enough time, and why we've grown to this size is because we've been right. We'll continue to be right. Things don't happen overnight. Let's look at where we are 6 months from now, a year down the line. And thus far, we've made the right calls. If you look at my own portfolio, 70% of it is still hundreds of percent up, despite us being at the kind of trough or the low of this pullback, perhaps. And that's only going to continue, and we yet to see all these amazing fundamental things happen. The institutions know that, and that's why I think they've kind of triggered the markets in the fashion that they have. So that's really it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you hanging there. I know it's tough sometimes. Ultimately, one thing that I do want to say as well, to not mollycoddle anyone too much, is if you can't have the heat, just leave the kitchen. You're adding stress to your life, your family's lives, the people on the internet's lives. Just go on and go about your daily business if this is too much for you. And it is a lot. It's very hard to emotionally deal with your portfolio fluctuating. You know, you might have gone into this year with 100 grand. Today, you've probably got 60. But by the end of the year, you might have 1 million. Who knows? That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Have a wonderful day as always, and I'll see you all in the next one.